Codex costs 5.7 times less than Fable 5 on input tokens. And if you're running 1 million tokens a day, that gap is $8.20 every single day. That's not a rounding error. Both models dropped this year, and the pricing gap is verified right now. So I went through official pricing pages, independent benchmarks, and community data, comparing Codex versus Fable 5 across 5 tests with sources I can actually stand behind. And yeah, the cheaper model wins on price, obviously. But the reasoning test flips the whole thing, and the complementary roles test at the end is going to change how you think about which one you actually need to pay for. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. I reviewed official pricing pages, model cards, and independent benchmarks from Artificial Analysis and CodeRabbit, and I only scored tests where both sides had comparable source data. You've probably heard both tools are great for coding, right? But if you're a solo dev or a small team shipping production code at volume, the wrong pick here costs you real money every month. We're talking about a 5.7 times input price gap on a tool you might be hitting thousands of times a day. Test one is code review accuracy. A bug that slips past your AI reviewer and ships to production can cost you hours of incident response, a bad user experience, or worse. So I wanted to know, does Codex or Fable 5 actually catch more of the stuff that matters before it goes live? Okay, so what I found here is kind of frustrating. Codex scored 88% on live code bench, which sounds great. Fable 5 scored 65 out of 105 actionable EPs on CodeRabbit. The problem is those are completely different benchmarks, so I can't compare them directly. And calling a winner here would just be wrong. No winner here. Both tools catch real bugs, but the tests are apples and oranges, so this one's a tie. I was hoping for a clean answer, and the data just didn't give me one. Score stays at 0-0 with one tied. Test 2 is reasoning quality. A solo dev reviewing a 50,000 line code base for architectural flaws needs the model to actually think through multi-step dependencies, not just pattern match. If your model can't do that, you ship a bad architecture and you're rebuilding it in 6 months. What surprised me here is just how clear the gap is. Fable 5 is Mythos class, which Anthropic says is a full tier above Opus, and the community data backs that up. It maintains consistent decision quality across long sessions and measurably better tool use accuracy. Codex is built for execution speed rather than deep reasoning. And that's not a knock on it, that's just what it was designed for. Fable 5 takes reasoning quality, and it's not close. The architectural review and long session consistency data put Fable 5 clearly ahead, which honestly surprised me given how much Codex has improved. That puts the score at Fable 5 1, Codex 0, 1 tied. Test 3 is cost per token, and this is the one that changes your monthly bill the most. The number itself is wild. Fable 5 runs at $10 per million input tokens, and if you're hitting it hard at volume, that adds up fast. I pulled the official pricing pages, and the gap is just massive. Codex comes in at $1.75 per million input tokens versus Fable 5 at $10, so that's 5.7 times cheaper on input. On output, it's $14 versus $50 per million tokens, so about 3.6 times cheaper. I couldn't find a verified performance per dollar calculation to close that gap, so the sticker price is what we're working with. Codex wins cost per token, and it's not subtle. 5.7 times cheaper on input, 3.6 times cheaper on output. That gap is way wider than I thought it'd be going in. We're now at 1 win each, 1 tied, and the price story for Codex is fully on the board. 2 tests left, and the next one is where the published speed data gets really one-sided in a way that doesn't tell the full story. And then the last test is the one that might actually change whether you need to pick one at all. Test 4 is task completion speed. You've probably heard that Fable 5's adaptive thinking mode is slow, right? A 95-second time to first token on a tight deadline is a real problem, especially if you're running a pipeline that blocks on the model's output before the next step can run. Okay, so here's what I found, and it's a bit of a mess. Fable 5 has a measured output speed of 73.4 tokens per second and a time to first token of 95.5 seconds because of its adaptive thinking mode, which is genuinely slow. But Codex has no comparable published figure at all. I couldn't find a verified speed number for Codex, so we're working with one-sided data. No winner on speed. Codex doesn't have published numbers here, so without a comparable figure for both tools, calling this one would be guessing. Another tie, and we're now at 1 win each with 2 tied. Test 5 is complementary strengths, and this one's a little different. The day you pick the wrong tool as your only tool and lock in a workflow around it, you're leaving real capability on the table. The community data here is pretty clear about what happens when people try to force one model to do both jobs. What I found is that the community has basically already figured this out. Codex is the doer, high-speed execution, building fast. Fable 5 is the reviewer, complex architectural reasoning, making sure the plan is sound. Users report needing both to make a, quote, perfect-ish plan, and that's not a marketing line. That's what people actually say after running both. Now, I want to be straight about this. It's not a case where one tool is secretly better than the other at both jobs. The gap between them is real, but it's a gap in role rather than quality. And depending on your use case, you might only need one. It just depends on whether you're planning or building. Tie on complementary roles. I thought one would edge the other out, but the data says they're a team. Final score, Codex 1, Fable 5 1, 3 tied. Codex wins on price, and it's not close. $1.75 per million input tokens versus $10 for Fable 5, that's 5.7 times cheaper. Output is 3.6 times cheaper too. And Codex caught a blocking bug in a community test that had survived for months. For high volume execution and budget conscious shipping, Codex is the clear pick. Fable 5 wins on reasoning, and the gap is pretty significant. It's Mythos class, a full tier above Opus with state-of-the-art performance on nearly every complex reasoning benchmark, and it keeps decision quality consistent across long sessions. It compressed months of engineering into days on a 50 million line Ruby migration at Stripe. For architectural review and deep planning, Fable 5 is the one. Okay, so here's the decision rule. The data says these two are genuinely built for different jobs, which I kind of didn't expect going in. If you need to ship at volume on a budget, Codex is the answer. $1.75 per million input tokens, 5.7 times cheaper, no contest. If reasoning quality is the bottleneck and you can pay the premium, Fable 5 is worth it. And if you can use both, Fable 5 plans, Codex builds. I ran Fable 5 against Opus 4.8 next, and the price gap is way tighter there, while the reasoning gap almost disappears, which changes the whole calculus on whether Fable 5's premium is actually worth paying. That comparison is on the channel if you want to see where the numbers land.